That Talking Podcast. I'm JJ Starr.
And I'm Downtown Andy.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We are here to talk. We are here to bring a little civil conversation to an otherwise discordant world. And how are you, Andy? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you, JJ?
Oh, I'm doing okay. It's an okay
How's
day.
Sadie doing?
She's doing great. Our mascot and executive producer, my very old baby girl. And for those of you who have not joined us before, welcome. We do have some rules here at That Talking Podcast. 3 simple rules we live by. No judgment, nothing personal, and don't be a dick. And I love it that I did it. Whatever. You're going to do it too.
I know.
So anyway, you know what
I'm sorry, did I break your concentration?
You know what I want to talk about right now?
What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about this dog.
Yeah?
I want to talk about this dog. She's here every time we're recording. She's here right on the bed with us. And, you know, she's been going through a lot. She's been going through a lot the last few months, and she's been putting me through it. You know, You've
been pretty stressed out about it.
I've been extremely stressed out about it. I have a very serious attachment to animals in general, but particularly the animals in my life. They're very important to me. They're beyond important to me. They are as important to me as, you know, I'm sure children are to their parents. And people want to criticize. They want to make you feel like it's an animal, it's a pet. She's not a pet to me. And with everything that she's been going through, she just turned 13. She's not a spring chicken anymore. She's got that spring in her step, but she's not a spring chicken anymore. I understand that.
She's got that chicken leg, though.
She does have them turkey legs.
I get what you're saying.
She's got a lot more gray hair than she used to. You know, when I got her, she was about like 6.5. So it's not like I got her when she was a puppy, but she's always had, you know, that spring in her step, that pep, that jump. She's mostly cattle dog, so she's jumping. She's a jumping bean and everything. But she is 13 years old at this point. I get it. But with everything that she's been going through lately, I got to admit, I've been getting pissed off at people. I've been getting really steamed at people. And in particular, vets. I feel like maybe I'm projecting, okay? Because as a patient of many specialists when it comes to my roster of doctors.
Oh, yeah.
I have been discounted, invalidated, dismissed, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, I mean, I've been chasing a diagnosis for my chronic illness for 5 years at this point. More than 5 years at this point, actually. And when I see an animal, particularly an animal that I am as invested in and as connected to as this animal right here, who will not stop licking herself.
And as you've said before, who will never really let you know what kind of pain threshold she's got going on.
Every doctor she has ever seen has said she's very stoic. She will not let you know when something is wrong. And I have had to sit in rooms with doctors lately telling me that she's just, quote, at that age. I'm sick of it.
This has been on your mind for quite a while.
It's been on my mind nonstop. It is constantly on the back burner, and then it's brought to the front burner when it has to. And it is just, I look at this animal, and yeah, I know. She's huffing and puffing over here.
We're making her famous right now.
She's so incredible. She's so full of life at 13 years old. And people want me to believe that just because she's 13 fucking years old, she's essentially on the downhill.
Listen,
she's just on this downward spiral, and I should just accept that.
Those of you out there with dogs or pets of any kind or animal lovers, give us a like, comment, subscribe, shout out. You know, we want to hear from you because, I have developed in more recent years my affinity for animals of all kinds.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't grow up with dogs. We grew up with guinea pigs and chinchillas and things you could keep in a cage.
Yeah.
Fish, whatever.
Yeah.
I remember when John brought Shorty home. Shorty was a dog we had for 13 years. She passed in December of 2022.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember when he brought her home and thought, like, oh my God, are you allowed to do this? Like, mom and dad never would have okayed this decision.
Yeah.
But, he had his own place at that point. But and she became the family dog. And I had been around a lot of people since then and up until that point who had dogs, and it was just kind of like, okay, this is something you have to get used to. I remember being a huge germaphobe growing up.
Sure.
I didn't want dogs licking me, touching me,
Yeah.
coming anywhere near me. I didn't want animals in general. I figured if a dog got near me, I was going to catch something. That was my, because again, it's one of those things that if you don't know, if it's not explained to you, or if it's not something that you experience firsthand, how would you know?
Right.
So I didn't want anything to do with animals at all. And then there was one dog in particular that I was not able to get away from, and developed a very close bond, that I'm still very much attached to that dog, to this day. And it grew into me not being able to shy from any animal.
Yeah.
And because of that has led to my affinity. I mean, we had a cat for a long time, and we're always looking at the birds and the squirrels that are out,
and the bunny rabbit,
and the
and the possum
back door, coming for the peanuts and the seed.
Menagerie we have outside, the raccoons and the possums and the skunks.
So that it is translated. Now, listen, I will admit, I'm ashamed to admit this, but I have not been the best when it comes to acknowledging an animal and their rights, for lack of a better word, their perspective, their existence. There was a fair amount of time where I looked at an animal as a household pet, looking at a household pet as just an animal.
Yeah.
And I had a tendency to lose my temper and do things that I'm not proud of. And I'm saying it here for our listeners and putting it on the record. And again, not proud of. I have curbed that behavior because I have developed a value and a appreciation for animals and their right to exist and their right to live healthy and fruitful lives just as any of us would.
I have never, I did not grow up with pets. We had a rabbit for a few years, and we had fish that we got from the carnival. And I had tropical fish, but I did not have my first pet. And by pet, I mean a pet that I could actually carry around and stuff like that, was Banky, was my cat, and got him in 2003. And he was the love of my life. Sorry, but he
no offense taken.
He still is. I have 4 tattoos on my body devoted to that cat. 4 tattoos. I only have 1 that has to do with you.
Listen, I'm way behind when it comes to meaningful tattoos. So,
but he was the most important thing in my life. He was my rock. He was the standard. He was my constant and my familiar. And he was the one thing that I could always count on. And losing him has been painful every day for 6 years, almost 7 years at this point. And I look at this big baby girl, my Sadie G, and I look at her, I look at all of her white hair, I look at her sore back and her shaky leg, and I look at her butt troubles and her tummy troubles, and I don't care. I would never, I don't think I ever have, and I don't think I ever could, look at an animal, particularly an animal that lives in my house, and treat it any differently than I would a child living in my house. I couldn't get mad at an animal, a dog or a cat or any animal. I couldn't handle myself if I allowed myself, and I understand that people do it, but I wouldn't be able to handle myself getting upset if my pets got sick or if they had an accident or something like that. It's kids do it. I'm not going to get mad at a toddler for getting sick or anything like that. So I'm not going to get mad at my dog. What I am mad about is the way that people seem to be treating elderly animals.
Listen, there's really no way of getting around this. The dogs that I'm referencing earlier in the conversation they all belong to my exes. Okay.
I know.
I've lived with a lot of people who've always come with dogs or cats or whatever. And at least for a time, some more than others, I've grown attachments to these animals. And again, as I've said before, I'm not proud of the way that I've handled a lot of situations, but that doesn't change how I feel about the animals.
Right.
Those experiences combined with living with Shorty and Charlie, our cat who ran away, and Sadie now, and interacting with a lot of the animals that I see when I'm out at work.
Yeah.
And now we have all the animals in our backyard that come to eat, the peanuts and whatnot. Yeah. It's changed who I am as a person. I don't care what anybody believes or thinks or whatever. I know me, and I have a much greater appreciation for animals now than I ever have before. So much so that when we see stink bugs or spiders or anything in this house, which I am not a fan of, anything that has more than 4 legs and crawls or whatever, you've seen me put them in my hand and walk them outside.
I do it at work. I save all the spiders at work. I put them on plates and I get them outside.
Which, if you said this to me, to the version of me from 20, 30 years ago, look at you like you had
Kill
sick dads. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I've truly become, I'm angry. I'm angry sometimes. I look at this animal and I get angry thinking about the way that she is being dismissed because of her age. She's 13. She's not 20. Okay? I've known plenty of people to tell me, well, my dog lived to be 17 years old. You see how active she is.
I wish our listeners could see how active she is.
Seriously. I mean, she acts like a puppy half the time. And, she'll run around, she'll jump, she'll play. She plays, she goes into beast mode, she, nips and everything like that. She acts like a puppy sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I take her to the vet and I say, her stomach is having problems, or her joint supplements aren't doing what they're supposed to do for her. And they tell me that, well, there are just going to be those times where you're going to have to realize that she's not a puppy anymore. It's like, I'm not an idiot. I know how old she is. I know that she is considered a senior dog at this point. But that doesn't mean I'm just preparing for her to go downhill. And it doesn't mean I'm going to allow it either. It doesn't mean I'm just going to sit back and watch her, devolve into a cripple. It hurts me because we don't do that with people. We don't look at someone who has reached... No, I'm sorry. We do not look at people who have reached like 65 and said, well, they've led a full life.
Some people do, though. And
that's horrific.
It is, but...
That's absolutely horrific.
That's an unfortunate reality.
Like if you were 65 right now, even 70, and you were to have, let's say, unpredictable pain... with no explanation, completely inexplicable. And your doctor just said, well, you've reached that age.
I'll give you a perfect example. That's what happened to my mother, because until she got diagnosed, her primary and anybody else that she saw couldn't tell. They didn't know she had cancer until she went to the hospital.
But that's just it.
But she was in pain, and
even when it comes to the vets and everything, they also want you to weigh your options. They want you to decide whether or not the life of this creature that is so important to you, is their life worth the money?
Basically, do you have enough money?
Are you willing to spend the money? Because after all, that's just an animal. These are people who have made their lives, their entire careers around caring for animals, but they still seem so jaded to the point, and I'm not saying all of them, but certainly a vast number of them that I have come across in the last couple of years have decided that, well, you're going to end up spending a few $100s on this test. And it's just like, yeah, sorry. That sounds like a me problem. Let me decide whether or not I'm okay with that. I would never in a million years, I'm not going to call my dog totaled like a fucking car just because you think that she's over the hill. When the clutch died on my Forester and I still owed like $2,000 on it, I said, well, it's not worth replacing the clutch because it's basically the same amount of money as the rest of the car would cost me. So just trade the fucker in and be done with it. I'm not trading my dog in just because she needs an ultrasound.
See, I sincerely hope that somebody listening would also concur that what I've said a million times over, there is nothing wrong with a second opinion. Because that is what got us 2 more years out of Shorty. Because, look, I don't want to I don't want to point the finger and start bad-mouthing anybody, but the reality is that her original vet had her on 4 different medications, including an injection, for a condition that she didn't have. These were all medications that she did not need, or at least that's what was told to me by the vet that she ended up going to afterwards. The second opinion, which I was, it had to be done because I couldn't stand seeing her suffer anymore. Yeah. And her original vet had said she should have been dead 4 times over. I go, well, if she should have been dead,
I literally would have punched that person.
If she should have been dead, then why isn't she? So I mustered up the nerve to be like, okay, the second opinion is happening, and the second vet said she doesn't need to be on this. We can't find a tumor. We can't find what's wrong with her. We're going to put her on this instead, change her diet, and go from there. And we went from, should have been dead 4 times to another 2 years of the activity that you saw. You saw how active she was when we first got together.
She did her little dance. She did her little dance. Her little stumpy legs. So cute.
For those who don't know, this was a Corgi Shepherd mix.
It was like a German Shepherd got chopped off at the knees and was just real low to the ground.
If you know what corgis are usually, corgis are pretty small. Okay,
she's like an albino.
This was an oversized corgi with German Shepherd ears.
So adorable. She was so wonderful. She was absolutely wonderful.
And we gave her the best, last 2 years that we possibly could.
I sat on the rug with that dog and just rubbed that belly because she was like, she had this like hog mode that she would go into where she would be like a hog in mud, where she would just lie on her side with her big old belly hanging out. I would just get on that rug and rub that belly all day.
I mean, I never wanted to give her up in the first place. No. I mean, I took her in when Dad went into the hospital for his accident, and when John was sick, and when John went in for his surgery in 2013, she stayed with me. That was the first time I'd ever had her on my own, and really like had a dog of my own to look after. And I never wanted to give her back, but my schedule wouldn't allow for me to be around when she needed somebody, especially when there was times where I was living alone. I'm like, I don't want to leave her by herself all day long.
Yeah, no.
But in later years, I made the accommodations because somebody needs, this dog needs somebody, there.
Yeah.
Which then developed into my famous habit of leaving the office as soon as I load my truck, coming straight home because she would not usually go to the bathroom or want to go before I left for work. So I'd take my break immediately so I can make sure that she went.
I think sometimes about how we were able to, just because she had such small legs, and we were able to let her outside, like off the leash, because if she started running, I mean, obviously we could catch her. I just think about sometimes just the way she would run. She looked like she was doing the worm. She was just like doing this. She was just like a waving giant floof down the grass.
When I would go to visit my parents, the first thing when I walked through the door, hey, can you take the dog out?
Yeah.
And usually off leash and I would say to her, I'd be like, Shorty, I'm not supposed to be able to walk faster than you can run. This is ridiculous.
She had super small legs.
And even before she got older.
Yeah.
Because we had her for 12, 13 years of her life.
I look at Sadie now, and I see so few changes in her from when the day I adopted her. And again, her history broke my heart. And that's happened before. I mean, that's how I ended up with Emma, who ended up being my parents' cat because Banky tried to eat her. But Sadie was adopted from the Humane Society when she was like 6 months old or something like that. And she was brought back 5 years later. The people brought her back. They had let her run away. She broke a toe while she was missing and everything. I'm happy they found her again, but they had a kitten apparently who they left the house, and they had another dog in the house who was like the alpha. But they came home and the kitten was dead. It wasn't bleeding or anything. It was dead. And they blamed her. They blamed Sadie. They didn't blame the other dog for some reason. And it's not like she was new. So the fact that they just gave her up. I'm like, how can you do that? It's like people who tell me they're just like, oh, I'm moving to a new apartment. I can't take my dog who wants her. I can't take my cat who wants her. It's like, what is the matter with you? You wouldn't do that with a human being.
They didn't deserve her in the first place.
No.
This dog, Sadie in particular, has been the catalyst for a lot of the change in my perspective when it comes to animals. I tell my customers all the time, I look for the dogs, because they're always hesitant about letting them come up to me, or, when they see me coming, they make sure they, get them back inside. I go, no, it's fine. Because, look, I've been bitten before, okay? That's nothing.
Been bitten before.
Which is like a huge thing
Yeah.
at work. Like, we're supposed to make a report and this and that. It's never been serious. It's always been like a nip of the skin.
Right.
But I'm not worried about dogs anymore. I'm not worried about cats. I'm not worried about animals in general, because as I get older, I begin to understand their traits, their habits, why they do certain things, why they react in certain ways, what they react to.
Like people.
Mm-hmm. I know dogs that look forward to seeing me as much as I look forward to seeing them. I know their owners who are, always happy to see me walking up to their dogs and spending time with them. I tell my customers all the time, there's more pictures of animals and particularly dogs on my phone than there are people.
Yeah.
Because I'm always sending you pictures.
You send me pictures of the dogs.
Because there came a point around the time you had your surgery when, you were laid up and I was taking care of you.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of my taking Sadie out and taking more care of her than I'd ever done before.
You really took over like the daddy responsibility.
Because even to this day, there's a fair amount that she wants nothing to do with me because I'm not you.
Yes.
Yet she's more so warmed up to me because I have put myself out there. I've, taken her out more often, gotten her food more often, spent time with her when you're not here, even though she doesn't want to follow me around, It's another thing I tell my customers. I go, when my wife's not home, Sadie wants nothing to do with me.
She's off duty at that point. She's like, nope, I'm on my break and I will be left alone. Thank you.
But around the time of your surgery is when I started to look at this dog differently.
Yeah.
I started to think of her differently. I started to treat her differently because the constant barking when I'd enter the room or come home would always get on my nerves because I'd always be afraid that it would piss off the neighbors. And I don't want to piss anybody off because I like keeping the peace, not just with neighbors, but people in general. Okay?
Yeah.
Keeping things calm and quiet and peaceful for everyone. But somewhere along the way, somebody said to me, you have to let a dog be a dog. You're not going to get mad at a kid for being a kid.
Exactly.
And so that changed my perspective. And it's been that way ever since.
I spent the majority of my life absolutely terrified of dogs. I was very severely bitten when I was 9 years old. A very large husky lunged at my face with its mouth. My doctor told me I was on heavy duty antibiotics for a very long time. I was on pain meds. The police were involved and everything. Like it was a bad accident. It was extremely traumatizing. I still remember my doctor telling me that I was an eighth of an inch away from possibly losing my eye. And I was 9 and I spent the next probably 20 years worried every time if I was in someone's house as a grown-ass adult, if I was in someone's house and I heard a dog walking on the floor or I heard like a collar, like dog tags jangling and everything, I would have a panic attack. I would absolutely have a panic attack. My neighbors at the time when I was still, in high school and middle school and high school, my neighbors had a dog and they would have to lock the dog away every time I came into the house. And it became mortifying. It became absolutely humiliating because since I didn't grow up with dogs and I grew up with this traumatic experience and all of this PTSD, I was so humiliated and I was made fun of constantly because what's the matter with you? Why of all things would you be afraid of a dog? And it's like, well, I'm sorry. One tried to fucking eat me.
I'm sorry.
Like, yeah, thank you. But like,
This is the way it came out.
so people who know me, who know about that are still to this day shocked. Absolutely shocked that I have a dog. That I let her anywhere, that I let her lick me, that I let her face anywhere near me without being absolutely terrified. She nips me at this point. I mean, you see the way she plays with me. The only way that she plays with me is she opens her mouth and she just swings her open mouth at me. That's what she does. That's how she plays. She goes into what I call beast mode, and she becomes this beastie, and all she wants to do is be a monster and fight me and everything. But she is a fucking lamb. I know that this animal, and she's nipped at people. She's nipped at you.
Look at how well behaved she is now.
Of course she is. She's an angel. She's so shy.
Letting us do this podcast.
All she wants out of her life is me.
And when she makes faces like that, it's just so precious. Putting her face into the blanket and just
sleeping with her little T-Rex arm. She does that. I think she gets that from me because that's what's wrong with my wrists too.
I'm still waiting for somebody to just be like, "You're a mailman and you have a dog?" Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's how it works.
I say whenever somebody's out walking their dog and they see the truck go by and they start barking, I'm like, "Yeah, come get the mailman, get the mail, get the mailman."
I've told people when people know
points for getting that reference. By the way.
The people who know that I have never been a dog person, that I've been so afraid of dogs for so much of my life. When I tell them I have a dog, I tell them I'm a cat person with a dog because I am a cat person. I absolutely, when people say I'm a cat person, I'm a dog person, I am a cat person. So anyone who knows what that means knows what it means. But I have a dog, and I have a dog who acts like a 45-pound cat. She wants to sit in my lap. She wants to get into the chair with me and everything.
We should just be glad she didn't try to jump into the crib when it was still here.
Oh, God, seriously. But she wants to sleep on the pillow.
We used to find the cat hiding in the crib. Imagine if we found both of them. Oh, my God.
They worked their way towards each other.
They did. And it yielded one of the funniest pictures I have ever seen in my life.
The only time I've ever seen this dog really gnash her teeth. Just at that cat.
Like Shorty's looking off into the distance. Charlie's looking at her. Sadie's looking dead ahead at the camera, and all of her teeth are showing.
Just the teeth. But she and Charlie, their relationship shocked me the most because I was convinced she would try and eat him. Especially if he ever tried to get near me.
He could hold his own. He held his own with quite a few animals over the years.
He beat the crap out of her. Honestly, she would just be walking by and he would just bap her on the head. She had scabs and stuff.
I don't know.
He beat the crap out of her.
See, the thing, like I remember again. I'm usually pretty uncomfortable talking because I don't want to talk about my exes. Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want to talk about them.
That's fine.
But I still have an affinity for their dogs.
Yeah.
Their whatever animals they had when we lived together. But my children's mother, okay, she was who I got Charlie with, and her dog, who she still has, when they were together, they would sleep together, they would do everything. He was a male dog. And so I have so many pictures of them just doing things, just being together and being okay, never bapping at each other, never getting aggressive towards each other. And I always associated that with like, okay, so he was a kitten when we got him. These are two males that are bonding together. But then the female dog came into the mix.
The bitch.
And female dogs of people who lived here afterwards. And I watched how Charlie would interact with these dogs. And then I started to associate his behavior with it being with female dogs because he would fight all of them. It would just be, I don't know what it was. He would swat at every single one of them and they would retreat.
She took it. Sadie took her lumps from Charlie, but they would sleep. I would find them sleeping on the sofa. They would be holding hands. They would be sleeping butt to butt, which is how she sleeps with me. She likes to be butt to butt with me. But it was one of those things that truly amazed me. And it's behaviors like that and scenes like that where I think about the way that some people treat these animals and the way they react to them that just steams my clams.
Well, you know what it is? There's probably more people than we know that have a perspective or a take towards animals akin to like how I used to.
Yeah.
And either they don't see anything wrong with it, or they won't admit it, or some combination of that. And it's unfortunate, but those are behaviors and traits that should be influenced to change.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's for me at least, it was something that I needed to do gradually, because believe me, I never wanted to lose my patience or my temper with any person, let alone an animal.
Right.
But, you know, there are triggers for me, just like there are triggers for animals. I mean, if you get aggressive with an animal, they're going to react.
Absolutely.
And so there were behaviors I had to unlearn. There were new behaviors that I needed to learn. There were things I needed to keep telling myself because, okay, I need to learn how to coexist with this animal. Yeah. And, you know, I'm never going to be able to look at the animal and say, you need to learn how to coexist with me. It's, okay, I need to reframe how I think about interacting with it, just like how you reframe how you would interact with another person.
And I think that's so fantastic because
it's something that I chose.
Yeah.
Because it's something that because again, I learned my affinity for dogs, cats, animals in general. It's something that I wanted her to like me.
She does like you.
You'll never convince me of that.
She loves you.
You'll never convince me.
She loves you. Listen, she only barks because
I entered the room.
That's my fault.
It's my introduction.
It's quite honestly my fault because when I'm not here, she doesn't bark at you.
No, she doesn't.
She doesn't bark at she doesn't bark at you. She doesn't bark at anybody coming into the house.
And when you're not here,
she only barks because I'm here. She's letting me know as loudly as possible and letting you know my mom's up here. Watch it. And that's why I would go to the ends of the earth for this animal because she is my ride or die. She's got my back.
Like, I understand, you know, with animals, accidents happen.
Absolutely.
Okay? And she ensures that we can't have any fun up here. Otherwise, an accident is bound to happen.
We can have very calm, quiet, and slow fun. We've managed some sort of symbiosis. I think we've figured out our dance at this point, the three of us, where we can calmly have our people fun, our marital time, and she will leave us alone.
If she was any younger, I'd be like, here's $10. Go to the dog park.
Here's $10. Go see a Star Wars.
Meet a nice bulldog. Don't get pregnant.
Oh, God.
Maybe we just need to put a dog collar on the doorknob. That'll
to let her know. It's like, don't worry, we're fine. Because, you know, I mean, again, she's got my back. She wants to know that I'm okay. And you make me make noises sometimes that would indicate that maybe she needs to go into defense mode. And that ain't nobody's fault.
Yeah.
But I don't like the way she's being dismissed. I don't like the way that you and I have been dismissed by doctors. And I particularly, I'm not dumb. I'm not naive. I know she's 13. I know she's a dog. And I know that my time with her from the beginning has been limited. But I don't believe that my time with an animal is going to be any more limited than the time that I have with people. And I refuse to think that way. I refuse to be swayed into thinking that way, especially by someone whose responsibility it is to ensure that these creatures get the best care they can.
Listen, I never expected to become as attached as I have been to any animal in particular. or rather, no, the animals that have been in my life.
Yeah.
In particular, there was a guinea pig that
Yeah.
it's when I lived next door and the neighbors were moving and they just didn't want to take it with them.
Ugh.
Now, this guinea pig was 4 years old at the time, and I'm pretty
Infuriating.
sure from what I read, I think guinea pigs live to be about 4.
Yeah, 4 or 5, yeah.
But they were drunk and they showed up with the cage in hand, like, here you go. And I had not been privy to anything, so I didn't know what was going on. And I'm
Here's
like,
your guinea pig.
and it's gonna
Like
be your
Girl
kid's
Scout
new best
cookies.
friend. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna be the
Okay.
one taking care of this. And I did take care of it because
Yeah.
through all the ups and downs of past relationships, that guinea pig remained until it passed at 8 years old.
8 years old?
8 years old.
Holy crap.
I fed and cleaned
Wow.
the cage. And
She lasted like my carnival goldfish.
And when I lived alone, I took her out of the cage and let her roam free. I have pictures where she'd be sitting on my chest watching a Christmas story with me.
Aww.
And I lost my shit when she died. Like, I remember the day before, like it was yesterday. I had gone to work. I came home. I checked this because she, I knew that it was getting to be that time. And I just brought home fresh food, fresh bedding, and everything. And I went to sleep thinking, tomorrow's just going to be another day. And I came downstairs not hearing her, trademark squeak
Yeah.
and not hearing her rustling around. And I saw her there stiff and I lost it. And I couldn't really regain my composure for
Yeah.
quite some time. And then, it came time to lay her to rest. And a couple of days later, the mice or rodents of the neighborhood unearthed her.
Oh boy.
I found her skull
Oh
just
boy.
sitting atop the dirt,
Oh dear.
which is what now sits in that urn next to Shorty.
Yeah. We have a lot of them in here because we don't want to let them go at this point. They belong with us.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely belong with us. In this room, we have Shorty, Spunky, Banky, Wally and Sniffles. We have Ricky and Fred. We've got Max, Scully, and Chibs. And one day, there will be others.
Wow, there's a lot more dead bodies.
There's a lot of dead bodies in here. And because they belong with us.
Mm-hmm.
They belong with us, and they will forever be with us, regardless of what asshat says that it's not worth it to keep them around.
And again,
Fuck 'em.
the second opinion is absolutely worth getting, regardless of the. Listen, we can't tell people how to parent their pets, but if they really mean as much to you as we hope they do, get the second opinion.
Absolutely.
Get the second opinion and put a little more value into your relationship with them, because they're not just
Absolutely.
a pet. They're not just there for your amusement or entertainment. I mean, certainly not for us.
No.
They
No.
are part of our families. So much so that, if we say to somebody, hey, we got to go because we got to get home for the dog. I mean,
Yeah.
it's true. We got to
Absolutely.
make sure that we're close by to be able to let them out, feed them, spend time with them.
We have cameras set up all over this house that we can find her in any room. We can literally find this dog in any room, and we can see where she's sleeping at any time. And it's important. She's important. She is as important to me as you are.
And I hope somebody hears this and begins thinking about this conversation you and I are having a little bit more often and more in depth.
Yeah.
Because she, like all the other animals that I've interacted with over the years, have enriched my life.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wouldn't have her without you.
Was this a good talk?
It became one because, you started off ranting and, you've been talking to me
I let that
about
out.
this. Yeah.
I had to let
You
that out.
Yeah.
I had to let that one out.
Because I understand how difficult this is for you.
Yeah.
Because again, this is not the beginning of the end, no matter how people may insinuate that it is.
Fuck them.
I have to tell you all the time, look at how much energy she still has.
Yeah. I mean, now she just wants to nap.
Right, because she's had to listen to us talk for 2 hours.
She's like, will you stop telling the internet about me, please?
But she will live on through this podcast,
Absolutely.
through our many, many photos and memories and fond
And I'm sure
thoughts.
soon to be at least 1 or 2 tattoos. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
Hug your animals a little tighter.
Absolutely. I'm about to hug the shit out of this dog. And she's back to licking her butt.
Give them a few extra treats.
Yeah. But yes, thank you so much for listening to that talking podcast. Please find us on social media. We're on Instagram, DT Andy and JJ Star. Like, comment, subscribe. Please send us your questions, comments, suggestions for future conversations. Thank you, Downtown Andy, for the guide for the use of our theme song.
Thank you for the editing of this podcast.
You're welcome.
Which one of us is going to take her out?
Oh, man. Whichever one she comes to first.
And we all know who that's going to be.
But until
I'm
next...
in the clear.
For the two of us here at That Talking Podcast.
The three of us
the
here.
The three of us. I'm JJ Star.
And I'm Downtown Andy.
And that's Sadie G. And we will talk to you later.